welcome to the ranking of every library book I checked out during the month of April 2026. Admittedly, due to the fact that I was so behind, I'm actually writing the script for this one immediately after the one for March, but this one is considerably more exciting than the previous, I promise. It has over twice as many books on it, 13 books, as a matter of fact. And I actually finished a fairly good number of them. That doesn't mean there aren't books in the other sections of this ranking, that there aren't books I didn't start, didn't make progress on, didn't finish, but there are considerably more that I did finish. Or at least, made a decent dent in. This is going to be a brilliant ranking. I tell you that, and I will delight you greatly. I am sure. Alright, so as always, let's start with the unstarted books. We're going to start with Carved in Bone by Jefferson Bass. I didn't actually want to read this book, but the pickings for books set in or even mentioning the 1300s were really slim. By the time I had time for this one, though, I'd already finished what needed doing with the time period, so I put this book back without ever opening it, and I don't feel bad about it. All right, next up, we have The Healer's Apprentice by Melanie Dickerson. I mean, the blurb doesn't sound uninteresting, but at the same time, I checked books out set in the 1300s for a reason, and I finished up that reason before I actually got around to reading this book. So, yeah, by the time I had time, I just didn't care anymore. I'm sure it's a lovely book, though. Probably. Next, we have The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. One of these days, I will actually manage to read this book and not get distracted by Andy Weir or Agatha Christie or anything else. I promise. As a matter of fact, I can editorialize here a little bit. Between when I wrote the script and when I'm recording it, I did actually manage to start Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I'm not that far in yet. I think I'm at like after the arena gets bombed. Yeah. I'm at that part. So, yes. But that's as far as I've gotten. But it is good. I'm enjoying it. I think it's interesting to be in the head of someone so slimy. Okay. Next, Murder on the Orient Express by Agatha Christie. This is an odd one. I've never read the book before, but I have seen the most recent movie adaptation because my grandma's a big fan, so the whole family went to go see it, which means I already know what happens. But, I figure I should check out the primary source. So I did. And actually, between writing the script and recording it, I did finish it. So, I've read it now. Yippee! Moving on to books in progress, we have The Archer's Tale by Bernard Cornwell. Bleh. While I will go into more detail as to why I was checking out books about or set in the 1300s later in this ranking, it should be noted now that such is why I checked this book out in the first place. And I just have to say, this book is bad. Like, worse, it's bad in like a really boring way. I'm not even mad at it. What is the point of a book that brings me neither enjoyment nor anger? No point, I tell you. Lame as all hell. The prose in this book is flat. The characters in this book are flat. The only thing in this book that isn't flat is the fight scenes, which are well planned and executed, but there's only so much one can be entertained by a fight in which you have no emotional stakes. I think I'd care more watching a death battle video about two characters from properties I've never seen. I don't think I'm ever going to come back to this book. It completely fails to elicit an emotional reaction from me, so what is the point? Moving on. My Hero Academia Volume 8 by Kohei Horikoshi. Okay, so I reached my actual least favorite scene in the entire series. I put the manga down, and I haven't picked it back up again. The library took the book back, and I don't know when I'm going to take it back out again. I really fucking hate Bakugo, and this scene is part of why. Not all of it, but it's at this point that sometimes I just want to give up on the story, but I like the sandbox that sits in far too much. And if you don't know what scene I'm talking about, it's the scene for first trimester finals. Okay? If you're familiar with the story of My Hero Academia, you know what I'm talking about. All right, next up we have Alchemized by Sin-Lin Yu. So when I put on a hold on this book, it was because it was popular on Libby, and personally I find that being angry at books makes me think I can do it better, which is a very good feeling for me creatively. So I wasn't actually worried about the quality of the book. It would either be good or it would help me come up with good ideas of my own out of spite. Which is why I didn't cancel my hold on the book when I learned that it was a scrubbed Dramini fic. Now, like almost any fandom person of my age, I was once a Harry Potter fan, and even though I would prefer to distance myself from that space now, given all the givens with how horrible JKR has revealed herself to be, I feel it is dishonest to hide that I was a fan back around the time that I was in high school. I was never a Hermione person, though, because, mentally I had it cataloged as straight dreary and thought there was kind of no point to it. If this is at all representative of the quality of most Hermione fics, then I'm rather glad I wasn't exposing myself to this nonsense when I was a teenager. It's really bad. Not in terms of the prose. The prose is actually quite lovely. The problem is that the story is, dark and not in a fun way. And, the sort of way that, the knowledge is supposed to be a romance story actually makes me feel, a little gross. If this was supposed to be a horror story or just dark fantasy, this would be really fun, actually. But knowing that the female lead is later gonna, kiss and fall for the man currently holding her prisoner, quite frankly, torturing her for information, it just, it really puts me off. You know what I mean? It really puts me off. But it is good for getting creative ideas because, I do feel like I can do this better. Fuck you. So at least I'm getting something out of it, I suppose. Right, Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. Why is it that my hold on this book only ever seems to come in while I'm busy? And then I'm like, oh, I'll find time because I really do want to read it. And then I go watch Project Hail Mary in theaters the next day. And then I only want to read Andy Weir books. And then after that, I only want to binge read Agatha Christie books because she was mentioned in The Martian. And then I don't get to it. You laugh, but that is exactly what happened. Actually what happened. No joke. That is what happened. Now, speaking of, we're going to start the finished books section with The Murder of Roger Ackroyd by Agatha Christie. This isn't really a fair ranking, but the edition of this book that I checked out, published by HarperCollins, March 17th, 2009, contains the worst foreword I have ever had the misfortune of reading. Now, if you, like me, have read more than a couple of books that were originally written long enough ago that, society's moved forward, and, the past is a different place. They did things differently then. You may be familiar with the practice of adding a foreword with a bit of context for the world in which the book first came into being. Given that I'm familiar with this practice and that this book is exactly 100 years old this year, I didn't think anything of there being a little 3-page foreword in the book. Except that the foreword spoiled the fucking killer. Yeah, it's kind of obvious if you know what you're looking for, but I shouldn't have known what to be looking for. And with a murder mystery that is so fucking lame. God. So, yeah, it was good, but, I had it spoiled for me, and it's a murder mystery, so that kind of sucked. All right, moving on. The Martian by Andy Weir. Hey, remember when I was talking about Fourth Wing and I said I didn't end up making progress in it because I went to see Project Hail Mary and then all I wanted to do was read Andy Weir novels? Look, an Andy Weir novel. It's actually the only Andy Weir novel on this month's list because my hold on Artemis hasn't come in yet. And I decided to actually purchase Project Hail Mary, so now I own a physical copy of it. And it would be silly to check it out from the library when I can just pick it up and read it whenever I want. So let's talk about The Martian. I don't like it as much as Project Hail Mary, but honestly that has more to do with the conveyance of the story than anything else. Like, I get why it's like that, but I generally prefer my stories to largely pick a way that they're going to tell themselves and then stick to it. There are large swaths of this book in both first person and third person, which is fine. It's fine. The story is good enough to make up for it. Also, I will be honest with, given how much people memed on the poop potatoes when the movie came out, I was expecting them to stick around a bit longer than they actually did. Like, really, the book kept surprising me with how much Watney went through and, like, somehow survived to the point that I was glad when it ended. Like, you can tell this one was written before Project Hail Mary, but in terms of, like, the quality of it in comparison, but it's still a... what the fuck? I'm certain that I meant to write a very good book, but my script says it is still a very, very book. What the fuck was I on about? But yeah, it is still a very good book. If you liked Project Hail Mary, and who doesn't, and haven't read The Martian yet, I'd say give it a read. It's worth it. All right, next up we have The Mysterious Affair at Styles by Agatha Christie. So this is a fun murder mystery. I picked it up because Dame Agatha was mentioned in The Martian, as I said earlier, and I enjoyed it a lot. I managed to suss out a large number of the twists prior to the reveal, but not the killer. That one actually blindsided me entirely. I won't say why because I don't want to spoil, and where's the fun of a mystery story that's been spoiled? I really hope you read it. I really hope you enjoy it. Okay. And then There Were None by Agatha Christie. So technically I finished this book in the first couple of days of May, but I checked it out in April, so it still counts. Deal with it. Deal with it. This one is really fun. It's really interesting to me where, like, the stories that I'm more familiar with kind of originated. This book in particular really reminds me of Danganronpa, with the way that it has no central detective and everyone is judge, jury, and so forth for everyone else. It's super duper cool. I've also been informed that it's very similar to the premise of another visual novel called Umineko When They Cry, so I'm considering checking that one out soon. And hey, since I'm trying to do a YouTube channel, let me know if you want me to film myself playing Umineko When They Cry, because the only thing that I know about it is that apparently the premise is very similar to And Then There Were None, so I'm assuming there's a lot of people locked on an island and then they start dropping dead, and that's about it. So let me know if you want to see that, if I should record myself playing. Okay. The ending of And Then There Were None rather stumped me, but, like, doesn't it stump everyone? Like, skillful. Agatha Christie's so good. I enjoyed it a lot, even if I did not get the answer. There is, however, one thing I feel the need to say concerning this book in particular. After I finished this book, I watched a couple of those, like, Let's Solve videos on YouTube. You know, the ones where, like, someone reads the book and then films themselves attempting to solve it as they go. I'm not making any of those because those all have, like, you know, people's faces in them. And I do not want to show my face. Maybe if I had, like, a VTuber model or something, like, then I would, do it. But I don't have a VTuber model, and I'm broke as hell, so, Anyway, I was watching a couple of those Let's Solve videos. You know, they read the book and then they film themselves attempting to solve it as they go. So I was watching a couple of those. And all of the ones I watched had this same idea that really shocked me. Namely, all of them at one point were certain that Mr. Rogers was behind it because of what happened after his wife died. I never got that impression. I more got the impression he wasn't allowed to grieve, that he was still expected to serve his betters. It didn't matter how upset he was, because his very personhood was suspect due to the casual, like, classism of the setting. And to me, it was this very powerful moment about how, like, awful rich people are in general. Similar to the moment in Mysterious Fairy Styles and Mrs. Ackroyd, Roger Ackroyd's sister-in-law, says that Ursula is a better servant because her stomach doesn't grumble when she serves dinner without being allowed to eat any. So, like, I just thought that was, like, an interesting, like, almost paradigm shift between, like, my positionality and theirs. I won't say anything else about those people's thoughts or about what happens in the book, but I felt the need to call out this moment in particular and remind people that Agatha Christie's books are not contemporary, and that viewing them through a contemporary lens may cause you to draw erroneous conclusions like this. All right. And finally, The Great Mortality by John Kelly. So, how long has it been since I had a nonfiction book in my rankings? And part of that is I prefer to purchase my nonfiction, so I don't usually get them from the library. But even when I don't purchase them, they do take me longer to read. So the fact that I both checked out this book and finished it in the span of a single month, fairly unusual. But unusual or no, this was a fascinating read. If you're following my AO3 account, you may know that a bit ago I released a fic titled 1347. I love writing fic, and I love fic writing events. And yes, that is related to why I checked this book out. Last month, I was doing one that included randomized tags. The idea behind it was that you got 4 randomized tags, and one of the tags I got was... Guess. Are you guessing? You guessed it, the 14th century. So, I immediately started checking out as many books as I could about the 1300s, as one does. Fic research is very important, So this explanation is here after you've already seen the presence of several novels set in the 1300s, because this is the first one I checked out, and therefore the first entry that I wrote in my script. Further, it's the only non-fiction book that my library has, at least as an ebook, about the 1300s. The only one. Are you kidding me? Oh my god. Anyway, not about this book though. This is a really excellent history about what is commonly known as the Black Death, although it should be noted that the contemporary name for the plague is actually the same as the title of the book, The Great Mortality. This is a great read, and I really recommend it if you have any interest in the 1300s at all, the history of contagious pathogens, or really any history, at all. I especially recommend it for fic research because, that's what I used it for, and it went great. But it would be really great if my library had more history books for me to check out. All right, in conclusion, this is a good month. I read some good books this month, including some really nice classics that I enjoyed as much as their reputation would suggest. Agatha Christie is one of the best-selling authors worldwide for a reason, and I hope to read more Christie in the upcoming months. I mean, she wrote 60 books, and I've only read 4. I'd read 3.5, but then I wrote the script. I've read 4 now. So, that's considerably less than 60. But I had fun. And thank you for listening to my opinions, and I hope they gave you some thought, and that you have opinions of your own, and that you'll share them with me. Bye for now. See you around.